Have you ever wondered if a parenting program works for everyone? I get asked that question a lot, and the answer is always the same. Nope. If anyone tells you that they help every single family, I would be skeptical. Well, I've been working with families for over 20 years, and I've coached hundreds of parents raising kids with trauma, ADHD, autism, anxiety, attachment challenges, explosive behaviors, and emotional dysregulation. And some families experience incredible transformations. I would say most families. And some make slower progress. And honestly, some stop before they're ready. And some outcomes don't look like how I expected. So today I'm going to tell you about 3 families that changed me. Not because they were my greatest success, not because they were my biggest failures, but because they taught me what success really looks like. And if you're wondering whether your family can change, I hope you'll stay with me till the end, because I want to leave you with a question that I think matters more than any diagnosis, any parenting strategy, or any behavior chart. So the first family was a single dad with 2 daughters. And when I first met him, he wasn't looking for a parent coach. He had actually been ordered into services through the court because of his own substance use and I believe his daughter's substance use. And if I'm honest, in the beginning, I wasn't sure this was going anywhere because he was super resistant. The girls were resistant. Everything felt very forced. The oldest daughter had been taking care of the entire family. She was basically the parent more than he was. Dad was gone a lot. And over time, it kind of become normal for her to carry the responsibilities. And she was very, she didn't want anybody else coming in and telling anybody how to do it differently. So there was a lot going on, a lot of resentment. There were already in the family, lots of arguments, the way they even talked to each other. It was like everything was kind of an argument, power struggles, everything turning into a fight. And at first, they just thought I was another person connected to the court system. And so they weren't even sure that they could trust me. But there was one thing that was working in our favor, and that was that Dad really wanted to get clean, and he didn't want to lose his kids. And he wanted his life back. And that was the foundation that we could build on. And it wasn't quick, and it wasn't easy, and there were setbacks. And there were weeks that I wondered if we were going to make any progress at all. But slowly, things began to shift. And it wasn't because, especially the oldest daughter, became easier. A lot of times the younger kids in the family like the program, and the older kids are struggling with it at first. But then things began to shift. And Dad didn't suddenly become the perfect parent. There was a lot of things that we were kind of we don't recommend that. But I remember one day when he looked at me and he said something that I'll never forget. He said, "I did not know that I could feel this connected to my kids." And then he said, "I'm not okay leaving them on their own anymore." And that sentence told me everything, because his heart really changed. And eventually the program ended and life moved on, and I didn't hear, from them again, and I didn't think about it that much. But then 2 years later, my phone rang, and it was his oldest daughter. And she said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I just want you to know that I graduated from high school, and I don't have any problems with drugs. I haven't had any more problems since the program." And then she gave me something that I just treasure. She said, "Now I know how I'm going to parent my own kids." Some success does not happen when we're keeping the score. And sometimes that you don't even realize that you've helped break a generational cycle until years later. And sometimes the clients don't even know. Second family, they taught me something completely different. They actually wanted this program more than almost anybody that I've ever worked with. They borrowed the money, they rearranged their finances, they sacrificed because they really believed that this was going to help their family. And then we started. And almost immediately, everything fell apart. They started missing appointments. They weren't getting things set up that they were supposed to get set up, and they just couldn't quite get started. And really, we didn't get anywhere. And I was really frustrated at first, because I'm more than willing to walk through it with you and hold your hand and, do whatever it takes, extra sessions, whatever. Like, I want to help you to make the changes, but if there's the avoidance and things there was just one crisis after another every single week. And so, I just remember thinking, like, they fought so hard to get here. Why aren't they doing this work? And then we just kind of paused for a little while so that they could regroup and they could decide what they really wanted to do and if they were going to continue. And I held my ground, because I really thought that they just needed to commit to this program that they were paying for. And when they came back, things were still not really falling into place. And then I realized that I was expecting, that these overwhelmed parents were going to function like regulated parents because of the place where they came from and wanting this. And that's two different things. This family didn't need me to push harder. They needed me to slow it down and to help the parents to just know that they could take these baby steps and that they could do it. And I needed to help them before they could actually help their kids. And so I just shifted where my focus was, and I learned that I could do that. And that family really changed me as a coach. And I would say that early in my career, I thought that success meant that they did everything the way that it's lined out to do it. And I know that even if parents only do half of what is lined out for them to do, that they are going to see changes and success. But I had to let go of even that, and that it wasn't about, doing every piece of it. It was about having somebody there walking them through all of it. And I think that success now is really helping people to be able to take the next step. And I want them to experience the changes. And sometimes that next step is not changing your child, even though that may be why you came to me, because like, oh my gosh, like, help me change this child. And sometimes we have to get through the frustration of that I'm working with you to make these changes in your home so that your child will change, instead of you sending your child somewhere to hopefully make changes, which they will, but they may not stick when they get home. And sometimes it's just helping a parent to get through an afternoon without feeling like she's drowning. And sometimes maybe it's helping a dad to believe that he's not failing, he's not letting everybody down. So we modified some things, and we slowed down, and we celebrated smaller victories. And they never really did the full program that they paid for. But I put in extra time to try to help them to make some progress where they were able to and where they were willing to. And they would probably tell you that they are still struggling. And here's what I know. They are still reaching out, and we are still connected, and the door has stayed open, and they know that they have help if they want it. And sometimes that's what success looks like. It's not finishing perfectly, but it's refusing to give up, and sometimes you have to work through your own stuff. This third family was an amazing single mom who adopted a boy. When I worked with her, he was around 14 years old, and she had done everything. I mean, and even when we were doing the program, she showed up. She took time off of work, which you don't have to do, but she really wanted to help, and she really wanted things to be different. And she learned, and she practiced, and she put notes up everywhere. And we had the posters up, and she had me come into the home, and she really loved this kid, and he was incredibly challenging. I mean, there were times that we had to call the police because his aggression. We often had to call his probation officer because he would become unsafe. He was incredibly cruel with his words. He was one of the meanest kids I've seen, like towards his mom especially. Sometimes he was the same way when I was there, and to me. And those were just really hard days. And there wasn't really a magic moment when everything kind of suddenly became easy. There were some places where he was like, this isn't so bad. And you could kind of see like he was resisting a lot less. And I could see that things were getting better. He did eventually have to spend some time in residential. I think I even made the recommendation for it, because sometimes the ability to keep somebody safe is too strong. And some people might look at that and say, well, I guess the program didn't work. But I didn't see it that way. And I think what was even more important was that his mom didn't see it that way. And so while he was away, she kept making those connections. And something incredibly important happened, because his relationship with his mom changed, and they understood each other differently, and she knew how to respond instead of react. And she knew that when he came home, that this was how she was going to continue to have the same requirements, and to have him, she wasn't giving up on him, but she wasn't going to let things slide. And I think that was the difference before. He had been in and out of detention before, and he would always come home and things would just slip. I mean, it didn't even take a morning before it would slip. And the relationship that was developed became the foundation that he could actually come home to, because sometimes success isn't preventing residential treatment or other extended treatments, or other things that you have to do to get through, to take it to the next level. Sometimes parents will do that with me, and sometimes they do that on their own. But we're always moving forward, hopefully, and not just letting things go back to the way it was. And that was a victory we're celebrating. I still stay in touch with that parent and find out how he's doing, and I know that he's working now, and things are much better than they would have been if they had done nothing. So I'm really thankful for how much that mom put in, and it really showed me how much people can do if they really want to, and if they really see that they are a critical part of making the changes. I think that's a big thing too, is that a lot of parents don't realize that they are the critical piece in making this work. So after hundreds of families, I realized something, that the biggest predicator of success is not how difficult your child is. And I have seen children with unbelievable histories make remarkable progress. And I've seen families with fewer challenges struggle to move forward, to apply what they are learning and doing it in their home, and letting go sometimes of the past. The difference usually isn't the child. I wish I could say, like, if your child is this hard, like, I can't help you. You're gonna have to do this, or this isn't going to work. But really, it really does have to do whether the parents are willing to stay in the process. And parents often ask me, Dr. Michelle, how long is this going to take? And I think that's the wrong question. My answer to that is the same answer we give your kids. It's going to take as long as it takes, right? Like, how long are you going to be a parent to this child? But a better question, I think, is even to ask yourself as a parent is, am I willing to stay in the process as long as my child needs me? And that's not just saying we're staying in and we're not doing anything, and we're not doing anything about the violence or the safety of everybody else. That's we are totally dealing with that. But it's just realizing that healing isn't often it's not linear. It's not a straight line. There are steps forward, and then there's sometimes steps back, and there's potholes in this road, and there's curves, and there's weeks that you're going to wonder if anybody or anything is changing. And then you have a day like one family where the kid comes downstairs and he says, I need help. My brain just feels really fuzzy and I'm not going to make good decisions. And you're just like, whoa, where did that come from? Right? And, or maybe it's a day when you learn to handle something differently and you see that you're starting to respond instead of just reacting, and you're not flying off the handle, and you're not allowing frustration and fear to take over. And maybe you realize that you're no longer the same family that you were 6 months ago. Some families who make the biggest changes, they don't always get it right. They're not perfect. They lose their patience. They make mistakes. They apologize. Like, I was a parent. Like, I know all the pressures and the stress and the things that just make you want to lose your mind, and the going to bed and being like, oh my gosh, like, was I even, like, who was I today, right? But they learn. We all have to learn how to apologize in a way that doesn't get us stuck. And we keep learning. And most importantly, we can't quit. If you've been watching today and you've thought, like, our family is different, she does not know. Like, every family that I have shared about today is different. And that's just 3 families, right? Different diagnoses, different histories, different parents, different outcomes. But they all had one thing in common. At some point, they chose to keep showing up. Not perfectly, not consistently, not perfectly, just consistently. And here's the question that I want to leave you with. Not will this work? Not how long will this take? But are you willing to learn a different way? Are you willing to stay in the process even when progress is super slow, and maybe you still can't see the vision of what you hope it will be because it's just so dark right now. But if your answer is yes, I believe that there is far more hope for you than you probably realize. And you don't have to stay in that process alone. That's why I created 6-week parent coaching groups. That's a great place to jump in. These groups are not filled with parents who have everything figured out. They are filled with moms and dads and grandparents and adoptive parents and foster parents and kinship caregivers who are raising kids with big behaviors, big emotions, complicated histories. And every week we meet and I teach practical tools that you can use right away. I answer your questions. I coach you through what's happening in your own home in real time. For 6 weeks, you get some help. And then there's another group if you want to join it. But most importantly, you're going to be surrounded by people who understand what this journey feels like because they're living it too. And my hope isn't that after 6 weeks, you're going to be like, oh, well, that was perfect. That's all I need. But my hope is that you're going to have a new way to see your child. You're going to have some new things to try. You still get to choose whether you're going to do it or not. There's nobody forcing you to do it, but you get to have a roadmap that will keep you, that you can keep using. Even if the group is over or you feel like, okay, I've got it now, and you can always come back to it. You're going to get replays, and you're going to find some help right now, in the now. So there's going to be a link in the description, and you can subscribe to this channel. Every week I share videos and tools and practical conversations, hopefully, and stories that help you to build a bridge to better behaviors. So thanks for spending time with me today. Look for those links, and if you want, you can go to parentingchallengingkids.com and find those resources yourself.